Great. Next, we have a presentation by Amanda Johnston, founder and executive director of Torch Literary Arts, on the impact of the Thrive Grant has made on the Torch Literary Arts and growing community of writers that they serve. Welcome, Amanda. Thank you so much for reaching out.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I do have some brochures to pass out. I'll do that after my presentation, but I want to start first with story. Again, my name is Amanda Johnston. I'm the founder and executive director of Torch Literary Arts. I was raised here in Austin, Texas, and I started writing early on in my life. Thank you to my mother, Susan Egan, for giving me books and poetry to read. But I definitely created Torch in 2006 to fill a need to support underrepresented and marginalized Black women writers here in Central Texas, but also around the world. Next slide, please. So you can read more about the details of Torch, but in 2006, living here in Austin, I had begun writing more, doing more, getting more opportunities, and a friend asked me, actually, you might know her, Susan Post, a book woman, longtime friend and community partner with Torch Literary Arts, asked me why I was always going somewhere else to present or to read, and when was I going to do more things here? And the sad truth was that the opportunities weren't here. Especially the opportunities to create in partnership with other people of color, especially Black writers. So I found myself leaving Texas to go and be a part of incredible organizations like the Appalachian Poets and Cave Canem, which I was a part of, received a fellowship, and then served on their board of directors as a national organization amplifying and supporting the leading Black poets of our time. My thought was, why can't we have that here in Central Texas? Why can't we create a space that supports Black women writers who live here, who are very emerging writers, all the way to experienced, champion, celebrated authors? Why can't we have a space that focuses on them here in the great city of Austin? I was fortunate to have these opportunities to build my career. I am also your 2024 Texas Poet Laureate. Thank you. I am the first Black woman to hold that title for the state of Texas. It is not lost on me how significant that is, and that my presence alone makes it visible for other Black women writers to see themselves in a position such as the Texas State Poet Laureate. We have to have spaces like Torch where first you see yourself to know what you can become. We have writers who've come through Torch Literary Arts, such as Sharon Bridgeforth, incredible woman who inspired and taught me here as a mentor. She was featured in our very first issue of our online magazine, Torch Magazine. Ebony Stewart, incredible writer from Houston who lived here in Austin as well, continues to come back and support us, as well as notable authors like Sapphire, author of Precious. She was our January feature this year. So from our online digital magazine to the in-person events that we do in this city, we are becoming a global resource and destination for Black women writers, but for all lovers of literature. Next slide, please. Toni Morrison's famous quote, "If you are free, you need to free somebody else. If you have some power, then your job is to empower somebody else." Thank you so much to the Commission. Thank you so much to the Cultural Arts Division and Economic Development for being able to provide the funding and encourage City Council to support funding for organizations like Torch so that we can do just that, free someone else, empower others through action, not just word, but through the action behind the word as a fully functioning 501c3 nonprofit institution. Thank you. Next slide. So here are some statistics. I'm not going to read all of that small print, but you have the slides and you're welcome to do so. But 11% of books published in 2018 were by Black people of color, period. So all books, imagine every book that you've seen in any store you've ever walked into in 2018 were only 11% by people of color. 5.3% of people as of 2023, represent people who identify as Black or of African descent. So less than 5.3 are identified as Black women. 8% represents the number of paying publications, so that people actually get paid for submitting their work and being published, more than a contributor's copy, actually receive some kind of monetary compensation is only 8%. But the number one person, as of a 2013 Pew report, the number one person most likely to read a book is a Black woman. So my question then is, what does she have to read? Does she see herself in the covers, in the stories? Does she see herself in industry, in publishing, having a career as a writer? Opportunities are so lacking that they are under threat of erasure. In that text also includes Toni Morrison's story, in that she was one of the editors at Random House. And while she was an editor at Random House, the number of Black and people of color that were published by Random House increased by 3%. However, immediately after her exit, it dropped down. And in the 3 years, I believe, after she left the position, out of 512 books, they published 2 by a Black author, one being herself, and that being Beloved, which won the Nobel Prize for Literature, and she is the only Black woman in the world to ever receive the Nobel Prize for Literature. My point in pointing that out is that it takes more than one person to be in a space to make real change. It takes radical investment and support by a community to recognize the need there and take steps to make lasting change, so that when Toni Morrison leaves Random House, people of color are still celebrated and published and have an opportunity to share their stories and their voices. Torch Literary Arts needs that support here in Austin and Central Texas, so that we can build an institution like the incredible people that have shared before, so that it lasts and is able to reach and attract more people to the area to receive the benefit of our services. Next slide, please. So why Torch? We're local and accessible. I had to leave Central Texas. I had to go to the East Coast. 75% of publishing activity, no matter what it is, publishing house, editor, agents, etc., 75% are on the East Coast. Only 5% exist in the South. I had to leave to find an opportunity to be able to do this work and have a literary career. We're right here in Austin. And we provide our services primarily at no cost or very low cost, and that's solely when it's aligned with a fundraising activity. Otherwise, it is free and accessible, so that cost is never a barrier for our community to receive these services. We're internationally known and respected. Our online literary magazine, Torch Magazine, accepts submissions from around the world. To date, we have published writers from Jamaica, Germany, Nigeria, Tanzania, Canada, and the list goes on and is growing with submissions. Our submission rate has increased over 62% for our online magazine and for our retreat, which we were able to launch last year with support from the Thrive Grant. Last year, we received 133 applications nationally. This year, we received 216. Next slide, please. So what do? We amplify Black women writers through Torch Magazine. As I mentioned, to date, that says 250. We need to update that slide. It's over 300 people that we have published and featured in Torch Magazine, and they have been paid for their publications. Our Wildfire Reading Series we do in partnership with independent bookstores here in Central Texas, where we're able to add to the ecosystem of the literary community by making opportunities available not just for the writers we serve, but for the booksellers and the bookstores who are selling those publications. Next slide, please. We have workshops. We do incredible workshops that are open to BIPOC women, and that's women with an X, so that we are supporting women of color at our intersecting identities. Those are provided at no cost. We support across genres, so poetry, fiction, creative nonfiction, script, which includes plays and screenplays. Every one of those genres is represented in our workshops, again, at no cost for folks to participate in. And our retreat that we launched last year is provided at no cost for now up to 8 fellows here in Austin, Texas, at the beautiful Colton House Hotel, who is a partner now. We are able to provide that at no cost for a week where they can come and truly embrace their craft, have space to relax, to truly retreat, and so that room for inspiration can exist there. with the overwhelming barriers that we have financially, the burdens that we have due to racism, sexism, and being underrepresented and marginalized, not just here, but around the globe, having a space as a resource where you can come and truly focus on yourself and your own writing to hear your own voice is vital. Next slide, please. We also have a writing circle that meets twice a month online. Again, that is free. It's virtual. People from Austin to around the world log in for 1 hour twice a month to dedicate to their writing. Sometimes the hardest thing is showing up. But knowing you're going to show up in a room where people look like you and the space was created with intentional love and support for you makes all the difference. We have people log in all the way from South Africa every month to write in community with others. And we do special events with the Texas Book Festival during Juneteenth. That is a picture of one of our readers at the Capitol presenting on Juneteenth. We actually do it on June 20th because we believe we should be off on the June 19th, like everyone else, to celebrate the federal holiday. But on the 20th, we come back and we have now what is an annual program that kicks off at the African American History Memorial there at the Capitol that is a reading and remembrance for the future. So having on the 20th is significant to show that we have so much more work to do. And it starts with sharing our stories and speaking out loud. Next slide. And we also are launching new programs. So we're advancing Black women writers from around the world. In the fall, we'll be launching a new program called Writing Across the Diaspora. Texas State has joined us recently as a presenting partner, and we're bringing in 2 incredible Black women poets from Dublin, who will be here presenting public readings, workshops, and visiting at Texas State, so that not only seeing yourself, but knowing that you are part of a global community of writers is empowering. And then our In Conversation series, having opportunities for writers, artists, everyone involved with the creation of literary arts to sit and have legacy conversations. We had our first one in February with Ramika Bingham-Risher that also included the visual artist Lisa D. Kane from Houston, who did the cover art for her book. And it was moderated by Trapita Mason, who is the Poet Laureate of Philadelphia. That was provided at no cost online and recorded and will be available soon on our YouTube channel. Next slide. So the financials. What does it take to do this work? It takes funding. The only difference between Torch and a larger institution that you know and love here in Central Texas is revenue. It's not the talent. It's not the vision. It's not the ability to run a nonprofit business. It's funding. We need that support. Receiving the Thrive Grant made a huge impact on us and what we were able to accomplish. We were able to sustain our first ever executive director full-time. That is myself. I stepped away from 14 years in public education and teaching adjunct in higher education to be able to do this full-time. But that was only when I could receive a salary to do so. We were able to hire part-time staff in the fall and September of last year. They've done a phenomenal job, and I mean low part-time staff with 10 to 15 hours a week. We have support in programs, communications, social media and outreach, and an associate editor for our online magazine. The data shows with the increase of submissions and engagement across our social media channels and our website is that more is needed, not less. We need full-time additional staff. To get to that, we need to start looking towards $1 million annual budget. And that number sounds big, but the reality is that majority of Black-led and serving nonprofit organizations operate with less than $500,000 in annual revenue, and that means that there is unpaid labor. That means that there is burnout. That means that there are portions of their communities who are still not being reached because they don't have the capacity to do so. Next slide. And so this is what we need to sustain Torch Literary Arts. To get us on that path to $1 million budget, we need financial support. Please continue to invest in the Thrive Grant and other opportunities to offer multi-year funding to nonprofit arts organizations, especially those who have been underrepresented and underserved in this area, such as Black women writers. We need a permanent space. We are grateful to our incredible community partners who share their spaces with us so that we can have programming, but we do not have a permanent home. As long as we don't have a permanent home, then that means that we are at risk of not being able to deliver our programs should our friends not be able to share their space with us, or should the cost of renting a temporary space be too high, which we all know the cost is high in Austin. So my request, again, support the Thrive Grant, and other multi-year funding sources for nonprofit organizations, support Torch Literary Arts, and consider us in your recommendations for multi-year funding. Last year we did over 40 programs. This year we're on track to deliver between 50 and 60. We will make a direct impact in over 1,000 people directly in Austin, but that over 15,000 are reached through reading our online publication, engaging with our videos that we post after the events on YouTube, and being part of our global community through social media and our website. Next slide. Next slide. And that's the team. Those incredible part-time staff that I mentioned, I wanted you to see their faces and read a little bit of their bios. These are talented, incredible women who are providing a service to our community, and we are at risk every day of losing them and not being able to attract new talent to fill these roles until it is a full-time and sustainable position. Next slide. Our board of directors and advisory board are phenomenal. These are scholars, educators, experienced artists, high-level nonprofit and finance leaders, and they are all contributing their experience to Torch Literary Arts for free on our advisory board and on our board of directors. None of us do this work alone. I do this work lock in step with these incredible women. Next slide. So again, please consider renewing the Thrive Grant, increasing funding, offering multiple ways of multi-year funding, especially for underrepresented and marginalized groups. We need that funding as a life source, not just so we can exist now, but so we can grow to last for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for being here, and what an honor it is to be in the presence of our Texas Poet Laureate. I really am so excited to have had such a robust presentation for our dais. I know we're all very thrilled to know more deeply about your organization. I have a comment, but I'll open it up to commissioners first. Commissioners, any questions for Amanda? Commissioner Mott.
I'm wondering that we are going to propose a Poet Laureate program. So is there a chance for collaboration?
Well, that was going to be what I said, Commissioner.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm glad you brought it up.
Thunder.
That was my first question.
Okay.
And just to bring Amanda up to speed, KB Brookins came.
Yes, I'm familiar, and I signed the letter.
Fantastic. Okay, that was going to be my question is, to just lock in step with, to quote you, with what what we should have and what the representation we should have in Austin, and that we're one of the few major cities in Austin that doesn't have a Poet Laureate program. And so
yes, Houston has one, Dallas has one, San Antonio has one. Austin has a youth Poet Laureate. We need an adult Poet Laureate in Austin.
Fantastic. Great. So you're already up to date with all of that. Love it. Commissioners, any other questions? Yeah. Thank you so much for your presentation. Really appreciate it. It's been very educational evening so far with all the grant recipients.
We have an event tomorrow. I want to invite you all to. Torch Literary Arts hosts a salon at Antone's Nightclub in partnership with Salia Sadiq, who's an incredible local cultural artist and photographer. Our open mic is open to anyone to attend and share on the open mic. We celebrate poets and songwriters. We have incredible songwriters come, bring their guitars, but we center Black women writers. By the second half, we play excerpts from artists from the Black arts movement, so Sonia Sanchez, Nikki Giovanni, and their rich history of having albums, spoken word albums. So we do a listening moment for that, and then it's a great way to just socialize, fellowship with other artists.
What time does that start?
At 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yes,
tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. Wonderful. Okay.